So the promise of remote work, it's massive, right? You've got a global talent pool, new markets, just endless possibilities. But here's the thing. Managing teams spread all across the globe isn't just about juggling time zones. It's a completely different ballgame. And in this explainer, we're going to break down a framework to help you actually win it. And this is really the heart of the challenge, isn't it? On one hand, you have this incredible opportunity to hire the absolute best person for the job, no matter where on earth they live. But on the other hand, you're staring down a maze of complexity. We're talking communication breakdowns, cultural missteps, and a real tangle of international laws. It's this paradox, and it's one every single global company has to figure out. So here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll start by unpacking that core paradox, then we'll dive right into building trust and mastering asynchronous work. We'll also get into navigating compliance, and finally pull it all together into a unified system. And really, all of this boils down to three core pillars: the human layer, the process layer, and yeah, the legal layer. So let's jump in. First up, the human layer. It's so easy to get totally caught up in all the fancy tools and tech for remote work. But the real challenge, it's not the software. It's building that foundation of trust and a shared culture when you can't just, be in the same room. Think about it. In a regular office, trust kind of happens on its own, right? Through those little water cooler chats, grabbing lunch, those small moments. But when you're remote, those moments just don't happen. Trust isn't some happy accident of being near each other. You have to build it on purpose. And let me tell you, without it, everything else just crumbles. And this slide just nails the difference. On one side, you have office culture, which is by default. It just sort of happens. It grows organically because people are physically there. Remote culture, though, that has to be by design. You have to be the architect. Every single norm, every communication channel, it all has to be carefully planned and built from the ground up. So, okay, how do you actually architect this thing? Well, it all starts with leadership being super transparent and dependable. You have to be reliable. That's what creates a psychologically safe space where people feel like they can actually speak up without fear. And from there, you got to make roles and responsibilities crystal clear. Actively push for those informal virtual coffee chats. And honestly, just put your team's well-being first. It's not a nice to have, it's a must-have. All right, so once you've got that solid foundation of trust, you can start building the second pillar on top of it, and that's the process layer. This is all about the systems, the nuts and bolts that let work get done smoothly across all those different time zones without forcing anyone to be online at 3 in the morning. And if you're wondering why this is so critical, just look at this number. A study from Harvard Business School found that for every single hour of time zone difference, real-time communication drops by 11%. I mean, that is a huge deal. If your team is spread from, say, San Francisco to Berlin, you're not just fighting distance. You're literally fighting a mathematical breakdown in how you collaborate. So what's the solution? Well, you have to go all in on asynchronous communication. Basically, this means designing work so it can move forward without needing everybody in a meeting at the same time. It's a fundamental shift in thinking. You stop asking, hey, when can we all meet? And start asking, how can I unblock you right now so you can get this done during your work hours? And a really practical way to make this happen is with something called a communication charter. It sounds formal, but it's actually super simple. It's just a document that sets clear expectations for how and where your team talks about stuff. Is something an urgent on-fire blocker? Okay, that's a video call. Is it just a general project update? That goes in the project management tool. See? This completely gets rid of the guesswork and that anxiety of, am I supposed to reply to this right now? Now, to make all of this work, you need frameworks that create just absolute clarity. Things like SMART goals make sure everyone is aiming for the exact same target. And then you have models like RASI or DASI, which get rid of any confusion about who owns what. I mean, when responsibility is spelled out that clearly, people feel empowered to make decisions and act without having to wait for permission. And that, right there, is the engine that powers asynchronous work. Okay, on to our third and final pillar, the compliance layer. Now, this is the one that so many companies, honestly, they just ignore it until it's way too late. But it is the legal bedrock that keeps your entire global operation safe from some pretty massive risks. So at the core of all global compliance is this idea called the territoriality principle. And in plain English, it just means that the labor laws of the country where your employee is physically working are the ones that count. It doesn't matter where your company's HQ is. You simply can't ignore the local rules. And probably one of the biggest, most common traps here is employee misclassification. The difference between an independent contractor and a full-time employee, well, it's very specific and it changes from country to country. And if you get it wrong, oh boy, you could be looking at huge fines, having to pay back taxes, and all sorts of legal penalties because you didn't provide the benefits you were supposed to. What this all means is that every single person you hire globally needs a rock-solid compensation agreement. It has to clearly spell out who's involved, how they get paid, protect your company's secrets and IP, and, this is the big one, it has to be 100% compliant with all the local labor laws. We're talking everything from vacation time to severance pay. So how do companies actually manage all this? Well, there are usually three main ways. You can hire people as independent contractors, but like we just said, that can be risky. A really popular option is using what's called an employer of record, or an EOR. That's basically a third-party company that handles all the local legal stuff for you. Or, in some situations, your company can register itself as a non-resident employer. Okay, so we've walked through the human layer, the process layer, and the compliance layer. But here's the most important thing to remember. These are not separate checklists you just tick off. They are a single, interconnected system, right? Your async processes are going to completely fail if you don't have trust, and none of it matters if your legal foundation is shaky. So building your own unified system really boils down to these three steps. First, you have to intentionally design that human layer, building a culture of real trust. Second, you systemize the process layer by becoming masters of asynchronous work with protocols that are crystal clear. And third, you solidify that compliance layer with legal structures that are absolutely bulletproof. And really, this all leads to one final simple question you need to ask yourself. When you think about your global team, is your strategy built by design, or is it just kind of happening by default? Because the answer to that question is what will determine whether you unlock this incredible world-spanning pool of talent or just get tangled up in all the obstacles.